Well, all right. So, the way I promoted this week's topic to people when discussing it is the Realtor P&L is this is the business side of real estate, right? I mean, honestly, I look back at the time frame, that boom year, those boom years, 2020 to 22, where agents were raking in dough and they were paying for everything and leads and going out and doing all this. And at the end of the day, how much money did they actually save, stack, put away? How much money did any of us actually save, stack, and put away for successful business in the future or for maybe even the rough times, for the slow patches and stuff, right? What did we actually profit, right? Because when the money's coming in, it's real easy to spend. When it keeps coming high numbers, it's real easy to spend. And today's topic is the profit and loss statement. And this is really your identifier, figuring out how much I'm actually keeping, not just how much I'm making, but how much I'm keeping at the end of the day, and also using it to figure out which activities are actually paying off. So anywho, with that, Kendra, with not 40 years but 30 years of real estate experience.
It could be 4, it could be 30, it depends on what day we're talking about.
10, 12 years of coaching some of the top agents in the country and being amongst the ranks of the top agents in the country. You guys, Kendra Cooke, Realtor.
Hello, yay, yay, glad to be here. So, yes, just what Gilbert was saying. So, a couple things, and then I'm going to share my screen. I'm actually going to walk you guys through. Speaking of that, hold on, let's do this really quick. I'm going to go put the link for this in the chat. So, you can, if you want to print one, um, you can print it and write your notes on it and then print one to actually use later. How's that? So let's put this in the chat. Okay, there we go. So a couple things I want to remind you guys of. When we talk about P&L, profit and loss is strictly about the business. And so what happens as realtors, a lot of us get into real estate as a self-employed 1099 independent contractor coming from a job that maybe that we had a W-2 when somebody took care of the taxes and all that kind of stuff. So we just took the W-2 to the tax attorney or tax CPA and said, hey, do my taxes. And so what happens is when we start this business, we just start like commingling funds. So I want you to think about when we got our license and they said, hey, you cannot put earnest money or escrow monies or anything like that in your checking account. Everything has to be separate, right? So I want you to think about your business and your personal money being separate. So today we're going to talk all about business money. And then next month, we're going to talk about the personal budget. And I'll show you how the profit from your business is what we take home to spend at home. The unfortunate part, myself included, um, I would just put all the money in my checking account, pay the bills, live. It was great. And then tax time would come around. I'm like, holy Hannah, I owe that much in taxes. Where the hell is that money coming from? Right. And so panic, and then I'll do it the next check and the next check. And before you know it, you've signed an extension, and then you're behind in taxes. And if you've ever been behind in your IRS taxes, the interest that they charge, you think credit cards are high? Go fight with the IRS with your back taxes. Not real fun. So we want to make sure that we teach you guys how to do your P&L separate from your personal budget. So I am going to share this form on my screen and I'm going to walk you through how to do it. And then we're going to have lots of questions, I have a feeling. So, which is great. So, let's get rolling. I'm going to move. There we go. Okay, move that so I can see. Okay, so let's talk about this form. So the profit and loss, P&L. When I first got into coaching, they asked me if I did a P&L. I'm like, what the heck is a P&L? I didn't even know what it stood for. So if you're looking at us on the screen thinking, what the heck is this and what does it stand for? Now you know it's, are you profitable or are you losing money when it comes to your real estate business? That's what this is all about. So this is going to dig a little deep into the financial piece of your business and see if you need to make some adjustments and correct some corrections when it comes to the money. So the left side, let me explain the form. At the top, you see it says month and year. So you cannot do your P&L until all of your checks come in for the month and all of your bills are paid for the month. So when do you do your P&L? Either the very last day of the month or the very first day of the next month. Okay. So technically, if today was July 1st, we would be doing our profit and loss for June. All right. So it's going back and recording everything we spent and all of our income. So at the top, you will put the month and then the year. And then the best way to look at this form is divide the page in half. Okay. Everything on the left will be expenses. Everything on the right will be income. And the bottom is where we will get a kind of a snapshot of how much we've made and how much we're on track to make. So let's start on the left-hand side, and you'll see the top, it says section 1 expenses. Okay. So just under that, it says fixed expenses. So I want you to think about expenses that happen every single month in your business. Now, the amount may change, but the expense is the same. So if you pay desk rental, if you pay a cell phone bill, if you pay an office expense, if you pay postage, if you have a printer that prints for you every month, anything that is a fixed cost, meaning it happens every single month, goes in that top section there. Okay. And underneath that, you see it says subtotal. So we're just subtotaling the fixed expenses. Now, this will be important when we come back because I'm going to give you some percentages and some boundaries for you to stay within. So that's why we subtotal each group there. Okay. The next one you'll see it says wages. Wages include if you take a salary. So let's say every month you're like, hey, I need to pay myself $5,000 a month so I can take that home to my personal budget to help contribute to our household income. So wages for yourself would say, Kendra, $5,000. Okay. Now, depending on if you have an LLC or you have an S corp, how you pay yourself is not for me to determine how you register this or how much you get paid. Okay. I know there are some things that you get dividends, some things you get draws. I'm just telling you, if you take a wage of some amount, you're going to plug it in under wages. Okay. Let's say you have a TC and a remote TC and you pay them $300 a file and you've got 2 closings this month. It would say your TC's name, $600. So any wages go under there. If you have a sign person, if you have an administrative assistant, if you have a virtual assistant, wages are wages. Okay. All of those go there, including your own. And then we subtotal it. Right? The next subcategory there is miscellaneous expenses. How we identify miscellaneous as expenses are expenses that don't happen every single month. So let's say this month you order 3 months of closing gifts. For the next 3 months, it's only going to happen every 3 months. It would go under miscellaneous. Or you have a client party and you spend $1,000 renting the place and on food, that would go under miscellaneous. You have to buy a new sign, which you don't buy signs every month, that would go there. So things that are sporadic charges that don't happen all the time will go under miscellaneous expenses, and then you will subtotal them. Okay. And the bottom one is personal expenses. These are expenses that your business pays for you that are considered personal expenses. Now, I will tell you the only thing I ever recorded down there for myself was the health insurance for my family. My LLC paid my family's health coverage. And yes, I can write that off with the business. And yes, it's an expense for the business, but yes, it's a personal expense. Okay. So that's what I under personal expenses. I have people ask me all the time, can I write off my dry cleaning? Ask your tax accountant. Can I write off my gas? Ask your tax accountant, because we all file taxes differently, and it will depend on if you have an S corp, an LLC, if you pay yourself as a partner, it could all be different. But if you want to know what you can put there, ask your tax person. Okay. And then we're going to subtotal those. Then we're going to subtotal all 4 of the subtotals to have our total expenses. And that total expenses tells you what it costs to run Kendra Cooke Inc. or Dawn Inc. or whoever, right? Lee Inc., right? So if you don't know what it's costing you to run your team, this is where you start. And when I say a team, it could be a team of one. You are a team, right? It is your business, it is your company, it is your team. Okay. So now I want to go back and give you guys a little cheat sheet out on beside. If you printed this, write it out beside it. If you didn't, you can make a note. But the biggest takeaway today for you is you want to keep 50% of the money you bring into your company. Let me say that again. You want to keep 50% of the money you bring into your company. Now I'm going to show you where we're going to look at that here in just a little bit. But because of that number, I have to give you some allocations on the expenses percentage wise. So you're always looking to make sure you're staying at that 50%. Okay. So the top part up there, the fixed expenses, I want you to put 10-15%. You can spend between 10 and 15% of that money that you're bringing into the team on your fixed expenses. Okay, this is giving you some guidelines and some bumpers. The wages is 30 to 35. 30 to 35% of the money that comes in can you spend there. Okay. Miscellaneous expenses is 5 to 7%. And personal expenses is 5 to 7%. Now, some of you are like, wait, why is she giving us a range? Because some of you will have more expenses in fixed expenses and nothing under miscellaneous, right? Or your wages might go on the top end because you take a little bit more money than the rest of us, so you got to go to 35 there. So if you just do rough math, 10% at fixed plus 30% in wages is 40%. 5% in miscellaneous is 45, and 5% in personal is 50%. I just showed you kind of a very basic breakdown of how to keep 50% of every dime you bring in the house. Okay. Any questions on that side before we move on so far? Anybody?
Can I make one quick note too? I mean,
Yes,
the
you sure
recent
may.
legislation has made some significant updates, in particular, in my opinion, for realtors, with interest for your vehicle and other things. So you definitely, and we've talked previously about having that team of very important people, that team of key influencers that can refer you. Your CPA should be one of those people who is referring you business, but also one of those people who you're meeting with regularly and consulting on how to operate your business most profitably
Yeah.
and least taxably.
Yes. And let's be honest, you guys, they're not perfect either. So you got to be watching their P's and Q's a little bit on the reports and stuff too. So it is great to meet with them quarterly or at least every 6 months. Okay, anybody else questions on expenses? Okay, we're going to move to the right. You'll see at the top it says section 2. I just saw a question or something pop up. Let's see. Hello there. Is it just me, but I'm not able to print the PDF? Has anybody else tried to print it?
No, I sent you a private note. The note says Kendra Cook Profit and Loss PDF, but it actually did not attach a PDF. It just attached
Okay. Well,
a
let's
text
fix
note.
that right now. Let's go fix that. Thank you for whoever. No, I didn't look at the private. Sorry. Okay, let's pull this up. Oh, you know why? Because I have it open. Okay, hold on. It doesn't like me right now because I have it open. So y'all just bear with me a second. I'm going to close these and then I'm going to go get it. Tells me I've stopped sharing my screen. Yes, we are glad about that. Okay, so we're going to copy that link and then we're going to go back over here. You guys, I am not technology savvy, so you just have to bear with me. Okay, please open that and tell me it works before we move on. Oh, yay. Okay, all right, now I'm going to go back and open it and share my screen. Okay, so give me one sec. Sorry, you guys. Okay, let's share the screen.
We will this when I'm going to do the recording as soon as we get off the call, and I will have Rose or Katie email out the PDF to everyone as well as the video review, so you can go back and get your notes. Okay.
Thank you, dear. Appreciate it. Okay. So we'll keep moving. Sorry about that, you guys. And thank you for red flagging me on that. All right. So on the right-hand side at the top, it says section 2. Section 2, I'm going to have to explain a little bit, but it's any income that is given to you that does not come from your personal listings or buy sides. Let me say that again. It's income that is generated maybe from your efforts a little bit. You generated the lead, but you gave it away to somebody else and you took a split, or it's a referral fee, or you charge a transaction fee. But it's not your personal production. Okay. So you can see on there, it says referral fee. So I've said it a million times. I keep my license because I place referrals all over the country and I get a little purse change, right? So when I do mine, any referral fees I get for the month would go there. Okay. If you are someone who charges a transaction fee, you can, if you had 2 closings and you charge $500 a closing, it would say $1,000. Okay. Then you see it says buyer's agents, a way to put the name, and it says income, and then it says number of units they close. So let me help you with that. If I'll use myself for an example, I had a buyer's agent named Eric. Okay. So I would put Eric's name, and let's say he had 2 closings, but my cut of the 2 profit to Kendra Cooke and Kendra Cooke Inc. would have been $7,500. I would have put Eric $7,500, and then under the number of units, I would put 2. Okay. So if you have buyer's agents that close multiple deals in a month or just one deal a month, you can track all that. And so for me, it helps me hold my team accountable. When Eric's goal was 3 and he's hit 2 months in a row, I'm going to sit down with him and say, okay, where are we missing the mark? Are you just not getting enough leads? Or are you not closing hard enough? Or are we losing because of something else? So we can coach them. Most of us just are like, hey, we had closing, we don't track anything. That was me for a long, long, long time. Okay. So there's so much power in doing this P&L for you to budget better, make a profit, and really know where your money, what your profitability is, but more importantly, where you spending your money, and then how to coach your team. Okay. As you grow your business, now this might be over the heads of some of you, and if it is, just tune me out. Can y'all hear this lawnmower outside my door, my window? I'm so sorry. It is so stinking loud. I apologize. But section 2, the ultimate goal is if you want to build 100% like true business where everybody else pays the expenses and you make a profit, then you got to get section 2 high enough that it covers all your section 1 expenses. Okay. So let me say that again. I'm going to use Dawn for an example because I can see her on my screen. Let's say Dawn's expenses every month is $10,000. Okay. Dawn currently is the one paying all the bills because she's the only one selling. All right. But Dawn decides to go get a couple buyer's agents and she's going to generate some leads for them and teach them how to generate their own leads to build some profitability. If she got those buyer's agents up and they were making more than $10,000 a month for her, that would cover all of her expenses, and everything Dawn would close would be 100% profit. Do you guys see how that works? So when we think about the lender side, they get junior loan officers underneath them or they build a team. It's the same thing. We can do the same thing, you guys. It's just, remember, you have to manage those people. You have to help them generate leads, or you have to teach them how to generate leads, and you have to handle their problems, and you have to handle their drama, and blah, 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 blah. But we individually only have so many hours to sell real estate and to live, right? So you get 2 choices. When you want to continue to raise the bar to make more money, you either have to do more deals, which means you'll have to add some staff, or you can raise your price point to where your commissions are higher and you can do less deals. Okay. So for me, when I started doing this, I was spending over $40,000 a month in my business and I had no team. So that meant for me to even feed my family, I had to go make 40,000 to cover all these stupid, frivolous expenses I got myself into, billboards and moving trucks and shopping carts and stupid crap. But I would have to pay $40,000 in expenses before I could even come home and make my house payment. And I didn't even realize that or know that because I didn't track any of it. Okay. So getting into coaching, like turn the microphone and the magnifying glass on me to say, you do not have a business. You're going to be bankrupt. You're going to be out of business quick running this pace. So I had to identify the issue, which was that my expenses were too high. The second issue was I had reached my bandwidth. I couldn't work anymore. So I had two options. I either build a team to help me cover those expenses. I eliminate some of those expenses, which I did both of those. And I learned to go into a higher price range so I can do less deals. That was the last piece before I sold my business. I loved the first time home buyers. I loved working with a couple builders. You know, my sweet spot was that 175 to 350 price range. I didn't really think I was worthy of selling $500,000 houses or $1 million houses because, you know, that's the devil in our head playing those games. And once I had one, I was like, oh, this is way more fun to have 5 digits on my paycheck instead of 4, right? And so then I learned to chase higher deals. Okay. By that time, I had a pretty big team. So we continued to grow units, but I did less units and made more money. Does that make sense to you guys? So this is business 101, right? We have a product, we have a service, we have expenses, we need profits. The product is the buyers and the sellers, right? We got to have a profit because then we can't take anything home, right? So the product, the profit, and the expenses, it's all in there together. So this form will tell you just about everything you need to know.
Yeah.
Okay?
And I just want to add that, and we do this on lender side. I've been doing this form for, I don't know, 7 years or so. One of the things you'll notice early on is that you're not considering all of your expenses. And you really do want to take into account all those expenses. And one way to do that easier than not is maybe making sure you have a specific credit card that all of your business expenses go on, or a specific account that they come from. Because think about this as an agent, if you're driving, showing, etc., you need a gas card for your business. You don't want to run it if you have a separate vehicle that you use for business. The just the simple thing, just things that are simple like that, even meals, lunchtime, because you're out of the office, you're not at home, you're out showing, etc. Those are expenses that you got to factor in when considering profitability. It's the small things that add up to big things that aren't being tracked. So,
Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about expenses and credit cards and accounts here in just a second. So yes, but thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so section 2 is income that we didn't technically work, not our personal deals. Okay, and then we're going to total that up. All right, then we're going to go to section 3, which is right here. Section 3 is your personal deals. So let's say you had 2 units and your personal revenue was 10 grand, 5,000 a deal. It just makes it easy for me. And then your total revenue again would be 10 grand. Okay. So if you had 10 deals or 1 deal or 2 deals, whatever, however many units, your total personal revenue, divide the unit by the revenue, and it'll tell you how much you're netting per deal. So 10 grand divided by 2 told me I made $5,000 per deal, right? And that is our income that we generated for the company or the team. It's pretty self-explanatory. All right. Section 4 is kind of where the rubber meets the road. Now we've got to process all of this and see, did we make any money? Okay. So section 2, we go right up there, income to you, and you bring that straight down. So however much you made on the team, not the total money that the team made, because you only get to count what you get to keep, what you made off of that. Okay. Then section 3, what was your personal revenue, right? And we total it. Now, oh my gosh, this is where most of us start off. look at all this money I made. I am rich, 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 right? Isn't that what we think? Well, don't forget, you got to pay those expenses from section 1. So go back over there to section 1, get that total expense, plug that number in, subtract it from that gross income. Okay. And now, guess what? Oh my gosh, we still got money to spend. No, 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 not so fast. Uncle Sam hasn't been paid yet. So you get to pay Uncle Sam. So, what is your tax bracket? I don't know. All of us have different tax brackets, guess based on like our family, the other incomes in our family, the type of business you have, all of that. So definitely check with your CPA what you should have that at. Some people like 35%, some people are at 30, some have it at 40. I just plugged 25% in there for today. So you plug 25% in. So we take 25% of the taxable income, and when we take that out, that's our after tax. That's how much money you really made. Okay. That's the number you get to take home after tax, not before tax, not before expenses. So this goes back to how we kind of started it. We're just throwing all of our money in an account and we're just paying it out left and right. And it's just what Gilbert said. The easiest way to manage your money and keep it separate is you should have one business credit card and one personal credit card. For me, it's easier to keep them separate. So I have an American Airlines credit card for my business, and I have a Southwest credit card for my home. That way I don't get them confused. Okay, so I have two completely different credit cards. I have one that's a MasterCard, one that's a Visa. It's pretty easy. Okay, then I have two checking accounts. I have the business checking account, all the income comes in and all the expenses go out. Okay. Same thing at home. All of our income goes in, all of our expenses go out. So two checking accounts, two credit cards, and then two savings accounts. The savings account, one is for your business. I'm going to show you why we need it here in just a minute. And then I have one for home where I have at least 3 months of all my expenses sitting in a little sweet account that I never touch, because that's my survival account. That's my rainy day fund. That's my, oh crap, our air conditioner went out, or oh stinker, or we had a blowout on the car, right? The ultimate gift for all of us is to have a little nest egg that we don't have to charge it on a credit card. Because I'm sure nobody on here would share or would want to share, but I'll share. I can't tell you how many times I was like, I'll pay the credit card off next month. I got a big check coming. That deal falls through. Oh, I'm paying my taxes next month because I got two big deals and that'll cover it. I won't have to, and that one of them rolls. And it's the snowball effect. You guys, I think I've said this on this call before, but one thing that I don't feel like we're talking enough about, oh, I did it when we were in person. I talked about it with Gilbert, is this credit card debt. Like, whether it's you or our clients, at some point in time, this credit card debt is going to have to get paid. And I'm not really sure how people are going to pay it if they don't, if they're not saving, right? And we know most of them are. They're relying on the equity in their house. They're relying on the next check, the next raise. I've been there and I've done it. It's very easy to just say next month, okay? So, two credit cards, two checking accounts, two savings accounts, two money forms. This is the business money form. We're going to talk about the personal money form next month. Okay. So now we see down there, we have after tax money. That's going to go to our personal budget. We're going to talk about that next month. But let's talk about the 25% that we took out for Uncle Sam. Where does that go? It goes into that business savings account. Okay. So let's say we owe Uncle Sam $2,500 this month. You need to physically move that $2,500 out of your checking account for the business into your savings account for the business. So when your quarterly taxes are due, you swoop that money out of there and you send it to the IRS. I can honestly tell you right now, I'm sitting with a huge tax bill and I'm like just sitting till the 11th hour to pay it because it is a lot of freaking money. I get it. Thank God I have it sitting over there, but I'm waiting till the 11th hour. I'm going to get the last penny of interest, right? But what if I didn't have that sitting there? I would either be putting it on a credit card, I would be filing for an extension, I would be trying to get a home equity loan, all things that we hear people do all the time. Don't be that person. Be prepared. Be responsible. If you're going to make big money, you are going to have to pay big taxes. It's just the way it is. Okay. So that 25% or whatever that number is of what you owe Uncle Sam goes in that business savings account to pay your taxes. Okay. All right. Let's look at the bottom of this form and then I'm going to open it up for questions. So down at the bottom, we are going to figure out kind of our balances, what this looks like. So the company float balance, let me tell you what the company float balance is. At the end of the month, we've done this P&L or the first day of the month, and we look at our checking account balance, we move our money to Uncle Sam, and that company float balance, which is your business checking account, needs to have at least 1 month of those total expenses in it. So after everything is paid, you look at your checking account and you're like, that thing's on life support. I got $100 to my name. You're in trouble. It's time to go back to work because next month those same expenses are coming and you don't have any closings and you have no money in the bank. You're out of business. You're out of business, people. Profits run the business. Okay. You cannot keep a business open with no money. So the company float balance is kind of your measuring stick. I was taught this way. God forbid something happened to me. I would have enough money in that account to pay all my employees and all my expenses for 1 month while they are finding another job. If there is no money in there and I have to lay everybody off, then I'm going further and further in the hole because those bills are still going to come for 1 more month, right? So don't put your family and your team in a situation that there's no money to settle something if something bad happens. All right. The next one there says your salary. We talked about up here in wages, if you took a salary or a draw or whatever, if you take any of that, you put that number right down here under your salary. Okay. The next one says tax account balance. Remember this number over here that we paid Uncle Sam in section 4? It's going to go into that tax savings account that we've talked about for the business. So if you pay quarterlies, what you're going to see is every month it'll go up by those 3 months of what you owe Uncle Sam. Then you're going to wipe it all out, send it into the IRS, and build it back up for 3 more months. Wipe it all out and send it into the IRS. So people ask me all the time, what do I do? You go to the bank and you say, I want to open a savings account. I want to start with $50. So every quarter, when it's time to pay your quarterly taxes, whatever's in that account, you wipe all of it out with the exception of the $50 you started with, and you send it to Uncle Sam. It will make the pain of writing any kind of check later a lot less painful because you've been making those deposits previously. Make sense? Okay. All right. The last one down there is cost to acquire. This was a rude awakening for me when I realized what it was costing me to secure my deal. So it gives you the little cheat sheet right underneath there. It says take your section 1 expenses. Okay. If you take a salary, subtract out your salary and then divide it by the total units. Now, if you will remember, I'm going to go back up here. Remember, we're tracking your team's units here. Easy reference for you, and your units right here. So in my scenario earlier, I said Eric had 2 deals and I had 2 deals. So that would be a total of 4 deals. Okay. So if I come back down here and I say $10,000 was my expenses, I paid myself, let's say $2,000. So I would subtract that out. So now I've got $8,000 and I divide it by 4. It's costing me $2,000 per deal to get paid. So now I want you to reverse engineer that. I make $5,000 a deal, average commission, but it cost me 2. So how much are you really making per deal? And remember, this is prior to taxes. Okay. So now let's take that $3,000 and pay our 25% off of that. Let's roughly say that's $650. So now the truth is, I'm really only taking home $2,350 of a $5,000 check. Is that painful for anybody? So the next time somebody says, gosh, you make a lot of money, or let's negotiate your commissions, you better think long and hard about that. Because let's do that exact same scenario and say, hey, I cut my commission, now I'm gonna make $1,500 for the deal. Do the math. We made 10 from Eric, right? And we made two at 1,500, so now we're at 13,000, right? We subtract out my salary. I'm doing this math in my head. Subtract out my salary of 2,500. So now I'm down to 10,500. Divide it out by 4. Now it's cost me $2,100, $2,200 to do that deal. Well, if it cost me 2,200 and I only agreed to 1,500, that's a loss. Do you guys see how that works? This is why you have to do your P&L. I was also the one that would say, oh, yeah, let's buy everybody new laptops. And I'd been in a loss for 3 months. Check your P&L before you buy anything. Don't buy a car. Don't buy a laptop. Don't buy a Remarkable. Don't buy whatever, an ad. Don't sign a Zillow contract until you look at your P&L and know what it's costing you per deal. And are you profitable? Do not do that. It's a horrible idea. Okay. All right. The last 2 boxes down there, and then we'll go into questions. We're going to start on the right. Yes, I know we're supposed to read left to right, but we're going to start on the right. So the right tells you your gross taxable paid year to date as the owner. Okay. So all you're going to do is go right back up there to the gross taxable. Now remember, gross taxable is after expenses before taxes. The reason I want you to track before taxes is some of you may own multiple businesses, some of you may be in different tax brackets. So all I want you to know is what is your income for the year after expenses before taxes. Okay. So it tells you right there, take your taxable income plus any salary that you paid yourself. For every single month, you add them together, and that is what you've been paid year to date. Okay. So when you're thinking, hey, I need a budget to buy a car, you can say, well, I've made $60,000 in 6 months. Divide that by 6, that's $10,000 a month. Cost me $5,000 to live, it leaves me 5. Yes, I can afford a $550 car payment or whatever. Okay. That's why you need to know this number. All right. The one on the left is going to give you your projections. If I stay on this pace, what am I on track to make? Again, it's a budgeting tool. Okay. So if you look underneath it, it tells you how to figure it out. You're going to take that gross taxable year to date, the number that we just did on the right, and we're going to divide it by the number of months. We started this call saying this is our June P&L. So we would take the number on the right, divided it by 6 because it's the 6th month, right? That's going to tell you what you're averaging per month so far. Then take it times 12, and that will give you your projection. If you stay on this path, how much you're going to make by the end of the year. So for easy math, if we're doing 60,000 on the right, we've been paid 60,000. We're going to divide that by 6 months. So it's 10,000 per month. Take 10,000 times 12, the monthly average, times 12 months. We're on track to make 120. Okay. Now, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to turn it back over to Gilbert. We're going to open it up for questions. I know that is a ton of information. The good thing is you're going to have the audio. You're going to have the paper to play with it. Just start tracking. Okay. You don't have to master the form, but you do have to know how much money you're spending. So therefore, you can figure out how many deals you need to close to cover your expenses. Okay. Gilbert, I'm going to give it back to you.
All right. So I mean, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is the business of real estate. Understanding profitability, understanding that actions and time have cost. People have cost. Things have a cost. How do you operate so that you have a profitable business at the end of the day? How do you operate so that you grow, right? And I noticed a couple things on here when going through it in section two, like that referral business, that can be a big part of your business, in particular when Florida is such a place where people are constantly in and out of the state, whether they're moving to Tennessee or from New Jersey, right? Like there's a lot of people coming to and from, and that can be a big part of the business. Just you pay close attention to the numbers because the numbers keep you in the business long term. Anywho, do we have any questions?
Did we scare them to death? Did everybody run? No questions?
Nothing going on. Okay. Well, I tell you what, I mean, we're out of here early. Kendra, you have anything else to add?
No, I'm just, if if anybody poses questions later and you need to ask me something, just send them to me or I'm happy to answer them. And then next month, we'll show you guys how you take these profits and you plug them into your personal budget so you can start budgeting at home, right? I mean, guys, number one reason for divorce, money,
Money.
money. So don't be a statistic. Let's fix any money issues you have. And if you have a question that you don't want to ask to the group or that you just want to go a little deeper, put it in the private chat anytime. That's not just for today. Or you can always email me, Kendra@kendracooke.com, and I'm happy to answer your question. So don't sit back and wish you would have, could have, should have. If you really got a question, let us know, even if it's after this is over.